meeting. Thank you. There's more of us, I think, than the toilet facilities were built for. But if we can resume the meeting now, I think most people are here. Item 11 is the appointment of political assistants. And can I just ask, please, that to avoid discussing individual members of staff, which would require us to move into part 2 to be able to do that, if people could try and please keep their remarks to the principle of the policy only, that would enable, obviously, the business to be concluded swiftly and efficiently without the need for moving to part 2 to exclude it. Okay. So, having said that, if I could invite, please, the leader of the council to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is item 11, page 31. And the matter relates to the appointment of political assistants. And I think it's important that as a council and as various different political groups that are reflected in our makeup, that each of those groups runs efficiently and that we're able to focus effectively on our key activities, and we all have different roles and responsibilities within the council. And we've taken some time actually to get to this point, but I think our experience indicates that we do need these roles of political assistants if we are to work efficiently and effectively, as I've said. And these roles are similar to, but by no means identical with, those roles previously undertaken by support officers in the county council, with some significant differences. The recommendations, therefore, outlined for us section 2.1 and 2.2 that we agree the changes that will be required for Constitution and those set out in Appendix 1 to this agenda item, which are necessary to allow for the appointment of political assistants to those political groups that qualify for such posts with Section 9 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, and that is clearly identified for us there, the rules around the appointment of these posts, and that we delegate to the Chief Legal and Monitoring Officer in the authority to agree a draft local protocol in relation to political assistance, incorporating a job description for those in the role, in consultation with the leaders of the political groups who will qualify under the rules for the appointment of political assistance. So this is an enabling step should political groups wish to make use of the opportunity of having political assistance. So I think I've made reference to the relevant legislation. This is practice across councils up and down the country, volunteer authorities in particular, and the report outlines section 3.4, the role in a high level way that political assistance will follow. So hopefully with that I'm happy to move the recommendation contained in this item and which I've outlined for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second for this item? Councillor Brooke, do you wish to speak now, or is there? Thank you very much. Let's find out. Did anyone else wish to speak on this item at all? Can't see anyone indicating. So, Councillor Brooke, if you'd like to. Okay. Then, that is fine. Well, if no one else wishes to speak, then we can move straight to the vote then. So can I ask all those in favour to please indicate? But just to make sure, can anyone who wishes to abstain or vote against, please indicate. Okay, thank you very much. That motion has been carried. Thank you. The next item, item 12, is the Constitution, the Lakes Administration Committee delegations, and just to, I believe that's you, Councillor Jones, to present this report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the, I haven't heard much of my voice today, so bad luck, wait for it now. First of a series of 5 administrative proposals that I'm bringing to Council today. These are largely straightforward, but despite that, it's important that the Council is satisfied that these are correct decisions. I think it's particularly true in relation to constitutional amendments. I'm referring now to item 12 on the agenda, which is set out on pages 141 to 151 of your pack. It relates to the constitutional aspects of the Lake Administration Committee. I'd like to stress this sits in my name as portfolio holder for legal and governance, but I must be clear that the Lake Administration itself is a non-executive function by our Constitution. For those of you who've not had the pleasure, can I call it, of serving on Lakes Admin, let me provide a little background. The Lake bed of Windermere was originally purchased by Windermere Urban District Council in 1939. Through the 1974 local government reorganisation, that Urban District Council was merged with other councils to form South Lakeland District Council, and the property accordingly transferred to SLDC. At that time, the newly formed parish councils in Windermere and the Lakes initially disputed the property transfer. That dispute was settled by an agreement of 31st of April 1975, which is attached as Appendix 1. The agreement created the Lakes Administration Committee with members from both district, council and parishes. And the committee is delegated with, and I may quote, the administration of all lake matters, including the management of the Lake District Council's properties connected with the lake. With the recent local government reorganisation, all of SLDC's properties and responsibilities, including legal agreements, have transferred to this council. Paragraph 5 of the 1975 agreement states that, quote, agreement shall remain in full force and effect until such time as agreement to the contrary is reached between the parties. There has been no subsequent agreement, and so of course the original agreement, the original terms still stand. Our Constitution was drafted with a section referring to the Lake Administration Committee. While this broadly reflected the terms of the 1975 agreement, legal officers have now recommended that this is amended, firstly to ensure that the Constitution specifically refers to the 1975 agreement and is fully aligned with the terms of that agreement, and secondly that the Constitution fully reflects the legal positions in Regulation 4 and 7 of Local Government Structural Changes Transition Arrangements Number 2 Regulations 2008. The amended working for the Constitution is set out in paragraph 2. As I've said, this ensures that the Constitution is fully in line with the 1975 agreement, because it doesn't change the current practice. I hope the members are content to agree with this change, and I'm very happy to propose the recommendation set out in 2.1. The Constitution is amended as outlined in the appendix to reflect the agreement dated 21st April 1975. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the seconder for this item, Councillor Clark. Thank you. Did you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
Or reserve the right.
Thank you. Did anyone else wish to speak onto this item at all? Councillor Burns.
Yeah, it's just a question, really, and apologies, it's just come to me, really. Is the reason that we're discussing this now because we had to be a sovereign council and that the Lake Admin Committee hadn't met in the shadow year, or could we have made this decision? Is it just kind of an oversight that's something we should have done last year? Just because I'm aware that there's actually been 2 meetings of the Lake Admin Committee since vesting day, and I wondered if it was something we just missed off the list of things to do. Understandable, so.
I think from my understanding, these are, with 2020 hindsight and have we got resources, could have been included within the original drafting constitution. As you're aware, we only had one legal officer with us and, as part of our team, and she had later having experience and only joined relatively late in the process, and so the wording was probably not optimal at the time. There were one or two things within that which we noticed were not in line with the 1975 agreement. We were able, so it is right that this comes to us for amendment. And yes, this is our second meeting since our original meeting back in April when we adopted the Constitution. So I think this is appropriate.
Right, I just bring in our Chief Legal and Monitoring Officer as well in response.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's fair to say on this agenda there's quite a lot of constitutional amendments, so we are working with the Constitutional Working Group. There are a lot of reports, a lot of things we need to do, so all we've done really is strengthen the wording and the terms of reference, and that came from the committee chair as well, so it doesn't affect any decisions that we've taken, nothing like that. It's just about continually improving and treating the Constitution as a living document, and when we spot things that need updating, we update them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dixon.
Sorry, Councillor, just to come back to this, just reading through page 141, awards affected, when we talk about awards affected, and it's Windermere and Ambleside performance and life. It always surprises me, and so I'm just asking that it be noted, and I recognise that the Constitution is living and dynamic and will change, but I'm querying that we think about Windermere, and really it's only the Windermere Parish Council, there's the Lakes Urban Parish Council, and all that lot. On the other side of the lake, this morning Councillor Burton didn't mention this, but of course all the western side of the lake seem to have no interest in the lake. And I just find that the whole thing of just taking the 1975 settlement and saying it will do. And obviously it will do because it's part of something that we need to sort out. But I would just ask that as we look to the future, we should have a much more holistic view of the lake rather than just something that we've inherited from 50 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Clark, would you like to speak separately?
I think most of the details I've got on through the whole history of Windermere and the lake and what's been going on in the news recently. So, as chairman of the I certainly support the changes to the Constitution. So
Thank you very much indeed. No one else wishing to speak? Sorry.
As I was named there, I'll just come back to that point. The reason I didn't mention the specific reference to the two awards you talk about is I understand that that's regards the legal constitution of the late admin committee in terms of those parishes that are constitutionally required to be represented. Obviously, there is separately a requirement for representation of people around the lake, as far as that is proportionally possible. So obviously for that reason I didn't refer to it, because that's covered elsewhere.
Yeah, it's set out in that original agreement. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully that's clarified for all members. Go and move to the vote. Can all those who wish to vote in favour, please indicate. That's everyone, yeah. Was there anyone who wished to abstain or wish to vote against? No. Again? No. So thank you very much indeed. Again, members, that motion is carried. Item 13 is the local code of corporate governance. And just invite Councillor Jarvis to present the report to the recommendations, and also members will have just some late amendments to the document. Sorry, Andrew, just to highlight the additional documents for the members.
Just to say that we have circulated the feedback from the audit committee and also some suggested amendments in Appendix 1. It's got highlighting amendments to address some of the comments made by the audit committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, Councillor Jarvis, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chair. This is, as you say, is to deal with corporate governance set out on pages 151 to 165. Now, I recognise this can sound like a dry and technical area, but governance is critically important. The accounting body, SIPFA, describes the overall aim of this to be that resources are directed in accordance with agreed policy and according to the priorities, that there is sound and inclusive decision making, and that there is clear accountability on the use of those resources in order to achieve desired outcomes for the service users and communities. I hope we all want to see those aims fulfilled. Each local authority is responsible for maintaining its own local governance framework. However, we are required each year to issue an annual governance statement alongside our accounts, which reports on the extent to which we comply with our own code of governance, including how we monitored and evaluated the effectiveness of our governance arrangements. Accordingly, we are required to have a local governance code. In 2016, SIPFA and Solace published a framework called Delivering Good Governance in Local Government, which defined the principles that should underpin local authority governance and provide a structure to help local authorities with their approach to governance. Appendix 1 sets out a draft code of corporate governance based on the framework and the guidance issued by SIPFA and Solace. It's based around the 7 principles of corporate governance. A, behaving with integrity, demonstrating strong commitment to ethical values and the respect of the rule of law. B, ensuring openness and comprehensive stakeholder engagement. C, defining outcomes in terms of sustainable, economic, social and environmental benefits. D, determining the interventions necessary to optimise the achievements of intended outcomes. E, developing the entity's capacity and including capacity of its leadership and individuals within it. F, managing risks and performance through robust internal controls and strong public financial management. And finally, G, implementing good practices and transparency, reporting and audit to deliver effective accountability. So each of the principles in the draft local code, it sets out arrangements which are already in place or are being put in place to meet each of these principles. And you will see this already includes a comprehensive set of checks and balances. Obviously, this is our first year of operation. It is key that we're now adopting and embedding the right systems, processes, cultures and values throughout our organisation. However, we also need to challenge ourselves whether these are keep challenging ourselves whether these are appropriate and sufficient. The annual governance statement will review the progress against this code and provide an opportunity for us to review and amend the local code. Consequently, you'll see the report recommends that we adopt the code only for a year, allowing further review alongside the governance statement. You will have also seen, as has been circulated, the Audit Committee has reviewed the report and made 2 recommendations. First, wanting to ask us to include clearly the recommendation the local code of government is adopted for 12 months only. And secondly, that Principle B is amended to make clear that methods of communication include methods other than just digital, as words included. And I am very happy to support these clarifications included within the proposal. I hope that all members here accept and endorse the 7 principles, both from the organisation as a whole and for our part within it. While I think that many of us would regard these principles as being self-evident, it is clear that this has not always been the case. We have seen national governments lacking integrity and transparency, and we have seen examples of local councils with inadequate internal controls and risk management. I also hope that you'll agree that the approach recommended by our officers for this year, our first year, is a pragmatic one. Consequently, our proposed recommendation set out in 2.1 that the Council approve the draft Local Code of Corporate Governance 23-24 set out in the appendix onto this report, with the 2 amendments suggested by Audit Committee. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Joyce. Please could people just make sure their laptops and phones are on silent as well during the meeting. Thank you. Is there a seconder for this item? Councillor Cole, did you wish to speak now, or?
I trust that will not be necessary.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this report recommendation. I'd like to refer to page 155, paragraph 2, where it says good governance leads to good management, good stewardship, good public engagement, good outcomes and efficient use of resources. And is characterised by robust scrutiny. You're always surprised that I've mentioned scrutiny, and that's what I'm going to talk about. On page 163, Principle F specifically mentions scrutiny. I believe that good scrutiny should be spread throughout all 7 principles. And whilst I'm supportive of the recommendation, I would like corporate overview and scrutiny to receive progress on the first 12 months' achievements and future plan developments in a year's time. And I'd like that noted now.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hughes.
Just briefly, Chair, support the report, and I'm referring to page 159, the section on engaging stakeholders. Councillor Jarvis as well laid out the way in which accountability requirements will be met, specifically towards our national responsibilities and towards our residents as stakeholders as well. But I think it's particularly important that as a new council we take the opportunity of involving our residents as much as we can in the way that we deliver services and monitor the way our services are run. You know, this is what the council intends to do, and a lot of this will happen through the locality boards, who I hope will, I'm sure, will each do things slightly differently within the framework of the council constitution and the council plan. But in my research, there's nothing like good co-production. Obviously, the members take the decisions. They take decisions based on, making sure good advice from officers. But the public really want to know that their views are being taken into account. You're nodding, and I'm sure you agree. So anything that we can do, either as a council centrally or through the locality boards, to increase the transparency of local involvement, I think will be really beneficial for those we serve and for the reputation of the council. So I really encourage the locality boards to do that most possibly.
Thank you. I can't see anyone else indicating they wish to speak. Councillor Collins, did you wish to speak as seconder?
I think all that needs to be said has been said.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. In that case, we'll move to the vote. So can I please ask all those in favour of this item to indicate? And there's no one who wishes to abstain or who wishes to vote against. So that has passed again unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Members, item 14, Constitutional Amendments Report. Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you, Chair. This report outlines 4 groups of amendments to the Constitution, set out on pages 167 to 179 of the Council Plan. I will introduce these briefly, but if you do have questions on a particular area, I'll leave them on the relevant portfolio holders or officers to answer detailed questions. The first of the recommendations is listed in 2.1, asking to amend the terms of reference for the Corporate Parenting Board. The proposed revised text is set out in Appendix 1, and the proposed changes were considered and supported by the Corporate Parenting Board on the 30th of August. I gather Councillor Dew has made some comments and suggested some minor rewording where the existing wording is remarkably a little bit clunky. And I would ask that the Council agrees that they delegate power to the Chair of the Board alongside the Monitoring Officer to make minor amendments just to tidy up the wording where it is a little uncomfortable. The second recommendation, 2.2, asks the Council to approve amendments to the Constitution relating to contract procedure rules around land and property. The proposed changes are set out in Appendix 2. This really follows the Cabinet's approval of the asset disposal policy on the 12th of September. I think it's particularly important we have a clear policy and criteria for asset disposals, and this policy is important to allow officers to know what the rules are and to be able to get on where we have got genuinely surplus assets. This new policy has implications upon contract procedure rules, and there are a number of relatively minor clarifications, as well as considerable additional detail around the process of disposal given in the amendments to the Constitution. Linked to these changes on land and property is a recommendation in 2.4, which asks the Council to agree to amendments to the Constitution arising from the adopted option of the community asset transfer policy, also agreed by Cabinet on the 12th of September. Proposed wording of this is included with the Appendix 2 on page 179. This in particular establishes the Community Asset Transfer Group, which will be responsible for assessing applications for community asset transfer and making recommendations to Cabinet in respect of applications that meet the criteria set out in the policy. The remaining recommendation here is in 2.3 about amendment to the Constitution, allowing all decisions and responses in respect of neighbourhood planning, other than that of making or adopting neighbourhood development plans, be delegated to the Director of Flagging Places in consultation with the lead Cabinet member for sustainable communities and localities. The background to this is presented in paragraphs 3.6 to 3.13. It emphasises that decisions relating to neighbourhood development plans are a Cabinet function, and that the decisions covered with this proposed delegation are largely technical or administrative in nature. I hope that members can see the rationale for each of the refinements of the Constitution that are being proposed, and that these are changes which will help us to get on and deliver for our communities. Consequently, I would propose the recommendations set out in section 2. I will not read them all, other than, again, clarifying that recommendation 2.1 is amended, that we delegate further clarifications to the text to the Monitor Officer in consultation with the Chair for the relevant board. Thank you.
Thank you. A seconder for this item? Councillor Kendal, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
We'll reserve the right.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item at all? I can't see anyone indicating. And is there anything that you wish to say?
I don't think so. I've seen all this before. It's not before the relevant activities.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we'll just go straight to the vote then. So all members in favour of this item, please indicate. No one wishing to vote against or abstain. So that item is passed. Thank you. Item 50 is the appointment of Deputy Electoral Registration Officers. Linda Jones and John Hodges have to briefly leave the room at this time because they're the people that the recommendation affects. So, Councillor Jarvis, I believe you're presenting this report.
Hello again. This one is a simple proposal. I hope we can dispose of it quickly. As a council, we are required under Section 8.2 of the Representation of the People Act 1983 to appoint an electoral registration officer, and previously we appointed our chief executive in that role. Under Section 52 of the same Act, we may appoint deputies to perform and exercise any of the duties and powers of the electoral return officer. Officers may not appoint a duty themselves. Consequently, I am asking that the Council approves the appointment of deputies. This is in accordance with the Electoral Commission's guidance that we have for such deputies. It will ensure that there's always an officer available to discharge these functions. And in practice, there are statutory functions which would be better undertaken by a deputy than by our chief executive. Recommendation 2.1 asks the Council to appoint 1 deputy electoral or registration officer with full powers and 3 deputy electoral or DEROs with more limited power, 1 for each of our core buildings. These limited powers allow them to determine applications to register, sign temporary voter authority certificates, and undertake registration reviews, but not including objections and hearings. Recommendation 2 appoints Linda Jones as the Deputy Electoral whatever it is, DRO with full powers, and Tom Benson, John Huck and Karen Thompson as DROs with the limited powers as set out in 2.1. I'm very happy to propose.
Thank you. Thank you. And the council, did you wish to speak on the item? Anyone have any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Byrne?
Sorry, I just want to pick up a point about when this legislation was brought in, the way that the government had gerrymandered the voter ID for especially young people, who it's not as straightforward as, you know, they can't have the same voter ID information as an older person does, they can't use that. I just wanted to, and not disagree with where we're going, I just wondered if we as a council can produce a leaflet, actually put it into places like libraries and what have you, to tell young people what they can use as an ID and how to register and where to do that, because I don't think the information is getting through to young people the way it should do. They've got every right to vote as much as other, but they don't understand that they need all of this doing now. So I'm just wondering if there's an easier way for us to let young people know they've got rights and they can use those rights.
Yeah. Sixth forms and colleges for when they turn 18. Go right over from then. And there's by-elections all the time. Well, hopefully not. But they could. They could. We hope not. Said the wrong thing. I mean, in general, across the country. I think we've taken it before. I'll just stop.
Use the recommendation, Chair.
Yeah, the recommendation. So we've heard councillors. No one else is wishing to speak. I'm losing control of myself. So we've heard the recommendation. So can I ask all those in favour to please vote? And looking now, so just to check if anyone wishes to vote against or anyone wishes to abstain. I can't see one. That motion is passed as well. Thank you very much, team members. Please, can someone fetch John and Linda back in the room so we can carry on. To save time, we're going to start introducing this item as you're making your way to your seat, which is the temporary appointment of councillors to Natland Parish Council. And Councillor Jarvis, you're presenting this report.
Yeah, my most surreal of the reports. Council, as you're aware, we're a parish council is in quorum. The Local Government Act 1972 allows us to appoint councils on a temporary basis to town and parish councils until such time as the vacancies are filled. Council has previously authorised the Chief Executive to authorise making such appointments. Earlier this year, the Council was advised that Natland Parish Council has only 2 remaining members. Accordingly, the Chief Executive made an order under the Local Government Act 1972 appointing Councillors Jonathan Brooke and Councillor Doug Rathbone to the Parish Council as temporary appointments. I understand that subsequently sufficient vacancies have been filled, so the temporary appointments of councillors have already ceased. However, in accordance with the procedure agreed by the Council, any temporary appointments made under delegated authority must be reported to the full Council. This report fulfills that requirement. Consequently, I'd ask the Council note these temporary appointments as set out in section 2.1.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder to note this item? Councillor Orton, is there anything you wish to say on this item?
Very happy to second Council as well stand for the day.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item at all? No, I can't see anyone indicating. So if all those who have to know, please so indicate. Okay, that looks to be unanimous. No one wishing to vote against there or anyone wishing to abstain. Thank you. That item has passed. Urgency report, this item 17, urgency report. Can I just ask the leader of the council to present the report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this item 17, page 191, and the report set out for us notifies us all of urgent decisions which have taken place in line with the Council Constitution. We're asked in section 2.1 that members note the report. The report outlines for us there is in respect to an urgent decision regarding parking gardens, care home, and approval to award construction contract for works to replace failed roof to the care home. So hopefully members have to note that.
Thank you. And Councillor Bell, do you wish to speak now? Right. Anyone have any questions or comments on this item? No one indicating, so if we can, all those members happy to indicate. Okay, yeah, everyone happy to indicate, please do so, thank you. And just make sure there's no one wishing to vote against or abstaining. Okay, thank you very much. We move then to item 18. So if you're dialing up, if you're using your laptops, just to remember your paperback, item 18 is on the agenda under pages 4 to 5. Just so you know. So item 18, notices of motion. The council is considering two motions under this item. The first one, I'd like to invite Councillor Tony Batty to move notice of motion regarding railway station ticket office closures.
Thank you, Chair. I'm proposing this motion in the hope that, as a council, we'll stand up for local people, ask the government, the rail delivery group and train operators to keep ticket offices open to help local people and visitors get to their destination in an efficient and supportive way, and that will call the train operators to account at overdue scrutiny. Using public transport can be the greenest and safest ways to get around. Colleagues may have seen a recent article in the Westmorland Gazette showing that since March 2023, 263,000 tickets were bought at ticket offices at Barrow, Ulverston and Grange stations, as compared to 175,000 tickets bought at machines there. Over 100,000 people have now signed the petition to Parliament asking for ticket offices to be retained. I take a particularly keen interest in this because I've got two recent and personal examples of this, as many people may have. My grandson was returning home to South Wales after spending some time with us. We needed to make sure that he caught the right train from Oxenholme station. He was going to have to change trains. There were two trains going south, one soon after the other, and we didn't know which one he should catch in order to get his connection. The woman in the ticket office told us that it wasn't the first train that he needed, but the second one to get his through train. I was rung up, and I was rung up recently by a local older woman who told me that she regularly visits her family down south, and again, it's the staff in the ticket office who help her work out her route and get the best value tickets. An advisor on the platform just isn't a good enough service. They may not be there, they may be on the wrong platform, and the machines may not work. So I'm asking the council to support the motion, as you'll see, that this council notes with concern the announcement by the Rail Delivery Group that train companies are proposing to close up to 1,000 rail ticket offices across England over the next 5 years. Council believes that ticket offices provide a vital service to residents who live in and visitors to Westmorland and Furness. Having a clearly signposted place in the station for people with inquiries about trains and tickets provides certainty and confidence for customers who may otherwise struggle to locate station staff. Not everybody is able to use station ticket machines or have the means to book a ticket in advance online. Complicated journeys involving connections are likely to require human assistance to ensure customers purchase the most appropriate and cheapest tickets, to not incur penalties or pay more than necessary. Council is concerned that the closure of ticket offices will disproportionately affect elderly and disabled residents and visitors to Westmorland and Furness, as well as those with issues with literacy and lack of IT skills or internet access. Therefore, I'm asking that Council resolves to instruct the Chief Executive to write to Mark Harper, MP Secretary of State for Transport, and the Chief Executive of the Rail Delivery Group, expressing Council's opposition to the possible closure of staffed rail ticket offices because of an adverse impact on residents and visitors to Westmorland and Furness. Further, refer this issue to Corporate and Overview Scrutiny Committee with a recommendation that representatives from local station operators are invited to attend the scrutiny meeting at the earliest possible time to discuss future plans for ticket offices and staffing at local stations in Westmorland and Furness.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bertie. Before we come to a second only debate about this and the other motion, which is also very important, I want to make sure that we can do so without rushing for the exit. Can I therefore please propose that the meeting continue past 4:30 until we have finished debating both of these motions? I'd like to propose that. Can I get a second that we can continue? Thank you, Councillor Archibald. All those in favour of continuing so to deal properly with these items? Thank you. Yeah, that's a majority there, which is all that is required to extend the meeting past 4:30. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Bertie, for proposing this motion. Councillor Rathbone, I believe you're seconding this. Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
I reserve the rights.
Thank you, Councillor Rathbone. I will now open this item to debate with any members wishing to speak. I can see several. Councillor Clark, Barrington, Cassidy, Connell, Isles. We'll try and remember that order. Councillor Clark, please, first.
The proposed closure of numerous ticket offices by trade companies is quite rightly highlighted in the motion today. It's essential to keep Penrith, Oxford, Market, August, Grange, and numerous ticket offices open, and also numerous national. It seems illogical not to make public transport easy and accessible to everyone. As we work towards a net zero society, as Archibald has highlighted today, the closure of ticket offices as far as is detrimental to both tourists and locals, impacting both the tourism industry and accessibility to trains to those with disabilities and many residents who aren't capable of buying new fares or tickets. The closure of a limited ticket office, for instance, is mind-boggling. For a key visitor destination, a visit by those making the decision to close a ticket office and what they deem a minor station would highlight the adverse effects of removing ticket office. During my time at Wimberley Station in Tim Farron, we experienced first-hand the repercussions of the closed ticket office. Not only was the ticket office closed, but so was the inside space at the station. In our new found and unofficial roles, we assisted tourists providing them with information and directions. The appreciation shown by the visitors highlighted the significance of ticket offices in facilitating a smooth travel experience. Conversely, those departing from Wimberley faced a challenge in deciphering timetable, understanding that they did not have to wait solely for the limited optional trains and other trains such as those to Manchester Airport did stop about now. The consequences of ticket office closures go beyond inconvenience. They will ultimately diminish public confidence in the railway system without the necessity support and information available to ticket officers. Passengers, especially those with disabilities, or those who don't not cope with the internet, will find travelling on railways more challenging. This policy decision directly contributes to the aim of creating an inclusive and accessible transport system to get people in cars. And for this reason, I fully endorse today's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Barrington, next. I've got no further wishes to speak, so don't worry.
Thank you, Chair. I completely support the motion in its broader sense, and I can certainly speak on behalf of our group. We are probably opposed to some of the things that have been talked about in terms of this consultation. But I would like to make a clarification and indeed potentially slightly amend the wording of the motion if that's agreeable. Purely because I do feel that there are a couple of issues that are not covered by the motion as made. First of all the ticket offices that have been named in this consultation are all at risk of closure. Quite a few of them are actually at risk of seeing their man ticket hours reduced or indeed staffing numbers reduced. And I think it's important that we actually reflect that in the wording of the proposal that we write to the rail ministers and the rail delivery group. With specific respect of, for instance, the proposal there is not to close the ticket office entirely, but to reduce it in such a way that it is actually effectively useless, and around 2 hours a day, and without mining at all on Sundays. And this has another significant impact, which I actually feel maybe potentially has more teeth in terms of our position to this, and that is that a significant reduction in staffing hours at stations and ticket offices will lead to completely unacceptable reduction in accessibility for users with mobility issues. It will also lead to reduced passenger safety. I think again, honest pounds for example, I don't think this proposal to completely close the ticket office there, but there is in turn the chance or it's likely that the number of staff available at one time will be reduced. So I think these are issues that we should reflect in the wording of the motion. I think this is really the spirit of unanimity that we've had so far throughout the meeting today. I apologise that I haven't had a chance to bring before the proposal of the motion before today. I have been seeking some background briefing from my local MP in regards to some of the opposition that he's already raised with Hugh Barron, the Rail Minister, the Office of Road and Rail, and on behalf of the company of Better Connected Group as well, just on counter-side, right, multiple other leaders. So it was just a question of, I was going to propose that in the first line where it says to close up to 1,000 rail and ticket offices, we had a little line that says and or to drastically reduce man hours, or however you use that term. We don't want to use man hours, so staffing might be more appropriate. Add up to 1,000 rail ticket offices. And then further down, to add a line after the council is concerned that the closure of ticket offices will proportionately affect elderly and disabled residents, as well as those with issues with literacy, lack of IT skills or internet access. We add this line that a significant reduction of staffing hours will lead to completely unacceptable reduction in accessibility for users with mobility issues and lead to reduced passenger safety. Again, we just refer to where we talk about the resolutions of this motion. We say expressing the council's opposition to the possible closure and or reduction in man hours for staff. Because obviously, we have to turn around and say, well, actually, we don't propose to close Orpheus or Optimum, whatever, therefore, your objections are invalid. Obviously, we would get opposed to reducing staff hours.
Councillor Brendan, so the motion, the resolution is the motion part. I think the other part is the preamble. So yeah. I think it's the part on the bullet points that will be what we wish to add. So
I think that's correct.
So if you just state what you wish to add, and then I can turn to Councillors Batty and Rambert and see whether they wish to accept your amendment.
In that case, it would be very simple. It would just be in the first line of the council and therefore resolves to, after the rail delivery group, comma, we would add expressing council's opposition to the possible closure, and the new text would read, and or reduction in hours of staff rail ticket offices. And we'll just take that word man out because it's obviously potentially charged for reasons.
So
just so that we
we've heard that clearly, thank you. So just I'm going to ask the proposer of the motion whether or not they wish to accept that amendment. Which of course they can or they don't have to. That's entirely fine.
We could debate, exactly what the proposals are. My understanding is maybe that Councillor Neil Hughes can clarify this. I think we're actually talking about only one station remaining, only one ticket office remaining open. But aside from that, I'd be happy to accept the additional and or reduction in hours after the proposed closure of staff ticket offices. So it would read, expressing the council's opposition to the proposed closure
and or reduction in hours of staff ticket officers. I look at the legal officer, and that simply makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Rathbone, as a seconder, are you happy with that amendment?
Yes, I'm happy with that, but I would just very quickly say to Councillor Brereton's comment about Oxenholme, the station staff, the rail user groups and the RMT aren't aware that they're not closing the ticket office there. That's all, but I do agree.
So we're incorporating that into the motion, and we can discuss that with the permission of the proposal secretary. As long as the meeting consents to us, and we can move on to the debate, and then obviously we can vote on the motion at the end. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Westmorland and Furness Council Labour Group fully concurs with the motion presented by Liberal Democrat Councillor Janet Batty and seconded by her colleague Doug Rathbone. Public consultations have now closed, but it seems likely that railway stations and railway ticket offices across our region are being lined up for the job. In the South Lakes area, Ulverston and Grange offices will probably see the shutters come down for good. The Barrow office is not among those earmarked for closure in this round, but it may fall victim in the future. The Rail Delivery Group has announced the proposed closures, but it's widely suspected that its strings are being pulled by Tory Transport Secretary Mark Harper. These deeply unpopular proposals are another example of the managed decline of what was once a cherished public service. The cuts will discriminate against elderly people and against members of the public who have problems with mobility or who are visually impaired. The proposed cuts are already causing jitters among those of us who are not very tech savvy, and as Councillor Batty has outlined, the cuts hold the potential to cause damage to our visitor economy, which is only now getting back on its feet after COVID. Eyebrows have also been raised, Mr. Chairman, by the employer's confident assertion that under the proposal staff will be more accessible to the public on the stations. Given that Ulverston and Grange stations will be staffed only 2 hours a day, that is a ludicrous suggestion. Mr. Chairman, just over a year ago, the unmitigated disaster of Trussonomics crashed the pound, and now it would appear that the Conservative government is driving our rail transport system straight into the buffers. We fully support the Lib Dems motion as it stands, and we stand with members of the RMT union who are campaigning against the cuts. Mr. Chairman, it will be very interesting to see what Tory automaton Mr. Harper says by way of a response, but this afternoon we've collectively blown the whistle on his wrong-headed proposals.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Cornwall next.
Thanks very much, Chair. I share a body called Friends of Eden Valley Public Transport, and as early as August 2022, when we heard about this, we put a letter addressed to the Secretary of State, simply in the waiting room at Appleby Station, with space for signatories. It was deploring what was proposed and expressing the value that local people placed on the station staff and the ticket office. I expected a handful of signatures, and yet over a quite short period, a few months, there were 1,300 people. That's in a town of 3,500. 1,300 people went to trouble of signing up on it. We photocopied all the signatures, sent them off to the Secretary of State. It was always somebody different every time you sent it. Mark Harper, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, I'm sure you remember her vividly. I forget who it was before that, Grant Chaps or somebody. There was always someone different. To be fair, we got polite replies. But the point was, I think this underlines the value that people place on the station staff. There's a silly caricature about Dickensian implying that there's somebody in regular spectacles sitting in an office punched up doing nothing but sell tickets. Of course, that isn't what happens. Your ticket office staff give advice, travel advice, they help people book the cheapest option, they tell people where they need to change, they advise them if there are delays, all sorts of things. And that's particularly important. I won't go through all the people with disabilities and so forth we mentioned already, but it's really important for people who are occasional users of the railway. If I'm the user, well, you're pretty savvy, you know what's going on. But if you're an occasional user, you're not necessarily confident about that. You need a human being to tell you what's going on. And if you don't have that, I fear that the risk that railway users will be confined to those in the know, and those not in the know stay away from it because they're afraid of it. Really, seriously, fear of public transport is not uncommon, as some of us realise, among those that don't use it very often. So I do believe it's really important. That doesn't mean that nothing changes. Job descriptions can be altered where necessary, particularly in larger stations perhaps. But in principle, I completely support this and I hope we all will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. I believe we've got Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Chairman. I had a recent experience myself trying to buy a rail card. The IT failed. Despite not getting a rail card, you would actually charge my account with the appropriate money. I had to go to the booking office and the lady was able to sort it out within a minute or two. So IT is not foolproof, but the staff at the ticket office generally are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Iles. Councillor Jarvis next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will try and be brief. I went up to Windermere Station in July and Northern Railways put up a sign on this subject. It read, quote, ticket office windows at this station will close with staff moving to other station areas where they are better placed to help customers. Yeah. Better placed. You read the notice further on. It tells you that staffing will reduce from 14 hours a day to 3.5 hours a day. Well, except Sunday, I don't think there's anything on Sunday. Staff will be there for 3 of the 15 arrivals, 3 of the 15 departures. I wrote to the Chief Executive of Northern Railways asking him about this, asking if he could explain how staff are better able to help customers when they're not there. I did not get a reply. Yeah, we wouldn't get away with that as a council, that sort of disingenuity. This is clearly about cost saving. About cost saving for private railway companies. The reality is we have among the most expensive rail fares in Europe. It seems clear to me that we are destined to have the worst service in Europe as well. And I fully endorse this resolution. We may not win it, but at least we will be on the right side of pointing out the merits of this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis. Councillor Hughes next, please.
So, a great deal has been said, but this motion is absolutely right on the ball, and this whole issue shows how completely out of touch the present government is with the people of this country. I believe that Councillor Batty and Councillor Rathbone are correct when they state that below it and Coney Barrow will remain open. In other places like Appleby, I believe that the ticket office is part staffed by voluntary organisation. I'm not quite clear whether that will continue, but if that's the situation, you've got Friends of Settled Cars, like in that instance, actually propping up the railway system when we expect, I'm not saying that they wouldn't do a good job, they do, but when we expect actually paid professionals to be doing it. So this is the big society, I'm afraid, looming large again in the same disastrous way it did a number of years ago. And in fact, this is a government actually determined to hamstring our country to the maximum possible extent. We had a botched Brexit, an Australian farming deal that will, with great massive detriment for many of our farmers here in Westmorland Furness, that will, which will see the standards in food and farming deteriorate, and it will undercut the income of our local people. We're having and still having rivers and lakes polluted without local people being aware. And most recently, of course, we have schools collapsing because they're not even made out of usable materials.
Like a train, stay on the track.
Exactly, Joe. We have to stay on the topic of needing to get things better in this country. Now, it may be those 4 instances I've just referred to are not ones which we as local people or as a council can immediately address with success. But this closure ticket office issue is one that the country as a whole is coming together on. And the country, civil society, with the backing of local authorities in most instances, will overcome this. And this is not one on which we will have to lie down, but it's actually one in which the people of the country will be vindicated in only asking something reasonable, not asking for a particular political stunt, just asking for well-delivered public services that act in their best interest.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Fillmore, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want Council to be aware that for Ulverston, we were, the proposals are that we have 2 hours a day, a roaming person on the station. And I'd just like people to be aware that if you are a disabled person and you're on the platform in the middle, you're relying on somebody from the ticket office to come and get you across the rail, open the gate and actually push you or enable you to get across the railway. So, you know, that means that people who are in a wheelchair or have struggled getting down the steps and under the underpass will have just 2 hours a day of that assistance. I just wanted to make people aware of that for Ulverston Station, and I thank Janet Batty for bringing it to Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fillmore. Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, just a quick one, Chair. I will be very brief. I mean, we've heard that they're not, I do support this motion, by the way. We've heard that they're not going to be shut at all stations, but if they only shut one station, in my view, that won't too many.
Thank you. Without wishing in any sense to breach my impartiality as Chair, I can say that 2 recent railway journeys I took from Oxenham Station, the queue was out the door with tourists seeking the advice and support of the ticket office. And that's with obviously a machine as well, but people clearly didn't see tickets. The queue was out the door. So I've seen it with my own eyes. And another station I was at in rural Derbyshire recently, the building was completely closed, possibly because of its roof structure, I don't know, but the building was completely closed, and I had to act as an impromptu ticket office assistant for several people who didn't know which platform they had to stand on. And I would add, in the capacity of the council, not as a chair, that the railway network is for everyone, and that must include people who only use it occasionally. And I'm personally concerned about the railway network becoming an antisocial space because people are unable to find assistance where they're not regular users, as I think councillors particularly mentioned. So I feel safe and confident because it's a motion, it's not a policy, I'm not betraying any partiality, but I wanted to share those 2 observations that I have with my own eyes from recent railway journeys. Councillor Rathbone, you wish to sum up, I'm sure.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I'll say that because I'm allowed to now. It's one of the benefits and one of the hazards of being the last person to speak, and that everybody else has been pulling their slides. But it's good that we're having a consensus around this issue. The question of it all is really whether we want people to use the railways, and that's the issue about all of this. The motion says that the council notes with concern, but really that grossly understates the effect that all of these plans will have on local people. And as has been said, the disadvantaged, the less able, the time short, those not conversant with technology, of which I admit that I am not a Luddite by any stretch of the imagination, but I fail to get the right ticket every time. And yes, I therefore have to pay on multiple ticket journeys a penalty fare. Just don't report me, please. Those not conversant with technology, fine. But those not conversant with byways of thousands of different options of tickets. And that's almost all the travelling public. We've heard from Councillor Batty, through Councillor Clark, through all their different councillors' personal views and experiences, what a loss the ticket office will be. We've heard how calling a ticket office still open or people on the platform still available is a misnomer. It will not be a service for the people. It will not be something that will help people to want to use the railways and to be mobile. I'm a council representative on the Legs Line Rail User Group and Community Rail Partnership, and they oppose its action by station operators, as of course has been mentioned, does the RMT, and sterling work that has been done with all those organisations to keep this in the forefront of public recognition. They recognise that it affects all users. I see it on a daily basis with living next door to Home Station, which I represent. We're perplexed and inconvenienced tourists, and if we are to revitalise our area and our economy as a destination, it is something that we have to help these bemused tourists, not just 2 hours a day, not just wandering on platform 3 when the need is on platform 1. The council has already responded to the consultation back in July, objected to the closures, and the portfolio holder, Councillor Hughes, has backed the opposition. What this motion does in addition is what we did in SLDCOS, which was call the rail group, the rail franchisee holders and the station operators to account by having them before ONS. I look forward to them trying to justify themselves in front of Councillor Morgan and her compatriots, because they are going to face an uphill battle, I hope. We need to hold feet to the fire and any other euphemism you want to use, because that's the dual purpose of this motion. Not just to write off a letter that will be answered by a cut and paste, but one that will have people in front of councillors talking about their real experiences of the loss of service. In addition, whilst there are 2,700 losses of jobs, which the RMT has calculated are in these proposals, you have to realise that this is the last, station ticket officers are the last statutory requirement for rail operators in their service provision. Once these go, there will be no consultation on any changes in the future. That is where the real impact will be. So I have no hesitation in seconding this motion and hoping that ONS will live up to their reputation and hold those feet to the fire. We had success in doing that in SLDC, where Northern upped their game, and upped their game big time. I look forward to that happening as a result of this motion.
Thank you. So just to restate the motion as it stands, assuming that Councillors Batty and Rathbone were happy with the slight additional wording, it would be that the Council resolves, I'm not going to read out the whole preamble, the bit that's relevant is the Council resolves to instruct the Chief Executive, Director Mark Harper, MP, Secretary of State for Transport, and the Chief Executive of the Rail Delivery Group, expressing Council's opposition to the possible closure of staff rail ticket offices and/or reduction in hours of staff rail ticket offices. No, it's okay. So the possible closure of staff rail ticket offices and/or reduction in hours of staff rail ticket offices. Continuing on, because of its adverse impact in residents in the West Furness, and refer this issue to the Corporate Overview Scrutiny Committee, with the recommendation of representatives from local station operators are invited to attend the scrutiny meeting at the earliest possible time and discuss future plans for ticket offices and staffing at local stations in Westmorland Furness. Just so we're aware of what we're voting on. So can I ask all those in favour to please indicate? That's unanimous. Was there anyone who wished to abstain? or vote against? I can't see. So that motion has been carried. Thank you, Council. We turn now to Councillor Suzanne Pender. I'd like to invite you to move the notice of motion regarding designated grading wall status for Coniston Water.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's been a long day already. I'm Suzanne Pender, I'm the Councillor for Coniston and Westmorland Ward. So this is a proposal about designated bathing water status for Coniston. Water-based activities have become extremely popular in the National Park, and particularly on Coniston Water. It's much less populated than Windermere, and it's become the destination of choice for many locals and visitors who enjoy paddling, swimming, and many water sports. I've been helping Coniston Parish Council with their application for designated bathing water status, and with them over the past 2 years, we've often recorded in excess of 600 people on beaches around Coniston. And as well as this, there are 4 large national competitions with thousands of people involved each year. Coniston has many community swimming groups that operate all year, and in this year, the primary school has started even holding its own swimming lessons in the lake rather than travelling to August as did previously. The importance of such activities and our water are important to people's physical and mental health, and that's well established. Concerns have arisen from the community where I live regarding water quality, and particularly discharges from the wastewater treatment plants at Coniston and Torba. Degradation of water quality in the lake can have an immediate effect on the health of those who use it for swimming, and has a long-term adverse impact on the ecology of the lake and its rare and internationally important species. Designation of the lake, parts of the lake of Coniston as bathing water impose a legal requirement on the Environment Agency to carry out regular assessments of the quality of water in Coniston. Such designation, and this is really important to me, will make it easier for United Utilities to obtain approval from its regulator, Ofwat, to attain expenditure for improvements to the effectiveness of local sewage treatment works. Designation doesn't require any physical changes to the natural environment. For example, there's no marking of the bathing water areas, although information about bathing water quality is required to be provided by the local authority. So the DEFRA application has been led by the Coniston Parish Council, supported by the other local parish councils. It's true to say it's not easy, and they have to record a number of bathers on the busiest days and evidence of the correct infrastructure such as toilets and landowner consent. They applied last year, and they were deemed to narrowly miss, been unsuccessful. I think they were very frustrated by that because the criteria that you had to meet weren't made public to them. The areas that they are applying for is the whole of Coniston. It's just the popular bathing areas around the Coniston Boating Centre, Monk Coniston and Brown House. So they're the 3 most popular kind of swimming areas in Coniston Water. It's not the whole of the water. The Parish Council working collaboratively with stakeholders, so that's the National Park, the National Trust, the National Farmers Union, the South Rivers Trust, local councils, local clubs and our MPs in Fareham. And they received letters of support from these stakeholders. We're also working really closely with United Utilities. It's not an adversarial relationship, and they've actually been really supportive. They've just been in Coniston School delivering a mad science session. It's a very collaborative relationship. And because of the clear support from the community for the improvement of water quality, United Utilities have 1 supported this application, and 2 have now announced that they've added Coniston to their asset improvement plan for 2025 to 30. So they're going to put in some funding for spill reduction from the overflow tanks there to make an average of less than 10 per year, a huge reduction to the current number. So if the application is successful, there will be even further improvement in Coniston and also at all the wastewater treatment plants, and we hope that those will be UV filtering systems. So in summary, this is a really important project for the community of Coniston and Hawkshead. I'd be really grateful if you could consider supporting it today. If you will allow me to support it, I understand the letter of support will be written by the Director of Public Health to DEFRA. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. And the motion is the Westmorland and Furness Council, alongside other local agencies, wishes to express its support to the application to DEFRA the designated bathing water status for parts of Coniston Water, believing this to be in support of the Council's priorities for improving health and well-being and maximising opportunities to protect our outstanding natural environment and to address biodiversity loss.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pender. Councillor Archibald, I believe you wish to say, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
I will speak now. And thank you very much, Suzanne, for that introduction of this motion. And thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's a great example of how a council can work with the local parish, local community, to actually make a difference. So thank you, then. Please take back our thanks to the local community for what they're doing here, because this is terribly important. I mean, we have a crisis throughout our area and beyond our area in terms of our water bodies. And the Windermere has been in the news, but it's not the only one, and clearly where there are discharges into the water that have polluted it and we're in danger of eutrophication. So it's a really serious problem, and I commend you for your work, and you stand as an example for us all. And I would ask all councillors to consider whether they have water bodies within their wards, within their villages, where they can perhaps work with the local communities to see whether they can improve the quality of the water, potentially in the same way that Suzanne is doing, but potentially there are other ways of doing it. And I would say that our approach is not to point fingers. It would be easy to point fingers at other bodies or past or whatever. No. What we want to do is exactly what Suzanne is doing, which is working collaboratively with all of those interested parties, with the United Utilities, to see if we can come to general solutions. So I would encourage you all as councillors to take the great example of Councillor Pender, and if you've got some ideas, please do chat about them with me, because we're very committed to biodiversity, net gain, and our water bodies are a very important aspect of our endeavour to improve the biodiversity of the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you, and fully support the motion in terms of water protocols. I think the one thing that I would like to just comment on from what Councillor said earlier was around the physical signage and things in the area. Over the summer there was quite a lot of reports of people drowning from incorrect use of waterways. So I think it's important, and it's a responsibility of the council as well, to ensure that water safety is suitably advertised, people wearing good constant a lot. Ourselves going to paddle boarding, making sure people are wearing buoyancy aids with the appropriate safety kit so that we can stop and hopefully mitigate the water safety incidents.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Rosen.
Yeah, thank you. I echo what's been said already. I'm completely in support of this. Obviously, for a bit of context, as the former member for this part of our new council area on Cumbria County, I did support the parish council's previous application. Unfortunately, boundary changes have taken place since local reorganisation. I'm no longer a member of the council, I'm still completely in support of this. As a serving member on the National Park Authority now as well, I think my support for this is still relevant, and also touching on what Niall says, I understand the frustration that when the original application was rejected, it wasn't made explicit or clear as to which of the criteria they failed to tick all the boxes on. One thing that stood out for me from looking at a reading of those criteria is that anything we can do as an authority and as individual members, and indeed as members of outside all the bodies relevant to this, that we can do to actually be shown to promote the use of the lake in this way, whether it's in terms of safety or signage or infrastructure that's already on there. The three areas you mentioned, for instance, toilet facilities, these are sorts of things. Like I say, it's great to hear that the school is now using the lake. I think we can try and encourage more use by wild swimming groups possibly. And I think there's some excellent work going on Windermere, indeed across the national park with the lake wardens in terms of safety leaflets, handing out free private swimming caps. I think anything that we can do to just give this second application momentum, it will have the effect of ticking that particular box about infrastructure and promotion of the use of the lake in this way. But it also obviously has the is abusive, which I know is another separate criteria, so
Thank you.
happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rosen. Councillor Thornton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, happy to support this. Coniston's a very special place. So special, our Chief Executive recently got on her bike and cycled there from Ballow and back. 52 miles, I believe, Sam, and several thousand feet of ascent, and so well done. Yeah, well, we don't want to be competitive, but Cumberland have got 5 of these, and we've only got 7. And we need to get more. We've got 4 on Windermere, and quite likely 3 in Walney. And that's a lot. So why we haven't got one in Coniston is inconceivable. And I'm sure this time we'll manage it, especially if we can support this. So absolutely fully behind this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thornton. Councillor Clark.
Coniston Furness for Swords and Absence. I know the Coniston community have been working particularly hard on this present for the National Park. I do endorse. We get 16 million visitors, probably the second most visited place in the UK. And so we should be encouraged to see swimming in safe places, in a safe manner. And this is exactly what this motion sets out to do. And that's why I struggle to understand this reason getting people in rural affairs hasn't been explicit saying what you turn down. We know what the issues are, address them, and ensure more people get water in a safe manner.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I can't see anyone else indicating to speak. Can I just check, Councillor Pender, is it the motion as written? Because you read it out, but you said parts of so designated bathing water stations, parts of Coniston water, is what you said. The motion as written says designated bathing water stations for Coniston water. I just want to be clear which one it should be.
I think probably it's my vote should be the parts of, because it's not the designation set up for the whole of Coniston.
Right, okay. Okay, so we'll make that amendment. So is everyone here, that everyone consented to that? Just firming up that wording, is that okay? Because that's obviously important to make the motion make sense. So with that, with the extended meeting, we'll alter that. I feel like I've got consent from that. We can therefore move to voting on this motion. So can I just please see all those in favour of this motion? And is there anyone wishing to abstain or to vote against the motion? No. Thank you. Item 19 is urgent items. There are no urgent items of business for this meeting. So that brings us to the close. Thank you so much for your patience and your time.